Right then, good morning everybody. So my name's Craig Burt and I'm the founder, managing director of a recruitment business called The Works that was founded in Bradford and Leeds almost, 30 years ago this year. Wow. And we've always worked within the engineering, manufacturing industries, also commercial, lots of other things as well, but we've always worked within that sector. So what we're going to talk about today is, because I know you're sort of the future of engineering and manufacturing, or manufacturing is the future of you. We're going to talk about maybe a few pointers or some questions that you might have about why you're doing it, what the future looks like. Our business employs, crikey, we employ probably over 100 temporary workers at the moment, temporary and contract workers, usually people over the age of, realistically, usually over the age of 25. Because they tend to be the kind of people that will go to a recruitment business or an agency for a job. Contract jobs, every single job in the universe is a temporary job until you've been there for a couple of years, because that means that at any point somebody could say, actually, thank you very much, we've done with you now, thank you. And that's the law. So actually one of our jobs is to make sure that people are placed in the right business for the right reasons and can give something to the business as well as take something themselves, which is usually a reasonable compensation, which is a salary. Another job that I do, I'm one of the Leeds ambassadors for people and skills in the Leeds City Council. And one of my jobs is to ensure that as a region, as a city region or Leeds, we're delivering good jobs with fair pay to the right people. And that's a difficult one, because lots of you will think about the minimum, national, the national living wage or the national real living wage. There's two very different parameters there that you might want to think about, but we can come on to that later. So that's about me, I suppose. Something that we're going to talk about engineering and manufacturing now, and the opportunities that might be in engineering and manufacturing. Because I can't see your faces, I can't see any reactions. So I'm going to say I'm always curious about why somebody does something. So I'm curious about why you chose engineering, manufacturing, or that sector to learn and develop. Why did you choose that? That's interesting. I personally love working in engineering and manufacturing companies, because as a recruiter, I like to see something that happens after all my hard work, and usually manufacturing something and something that pops off at the other end. That makes me feel good. To have a part in developing something is pretty special. One thing that I've learned in the last 30 years, I've not often come across people that are reliable, reasonably clever. What's clever mean? I'm not sure. Who are long-term unemployed when they've been working within the manufacturing and engineering industries. So I'd say, and that goes from, the Industrial Revolution started in Yorkshire. It's where it all started, and that's what we're really good at. Most of the people that I've ever worked with, it's rare that somebody who really wants to work, can afford to work or take that role, and is intellectually curious, is unemployed. And that's more, I think hairdressers probably trump engineering a little bit more, because everybody's always going to want the haircut. But engineering and manufacturing, there's always some interesting jobs there. I suppose the other thing that interests me around engineering and manufacturing, and might interest you, is the diversity of what's available within that industry. It's pretty unique in terms of the available jobs. Every engineering and manufacturing business needs somebody to sell, because nothing happens before something's sold, does it? You could be making the best product in the whole wide world, and we've seen people do that. But until something is sold, nothing happens. So sales engineers, usually to be a sales engineer, I've got people who work in my business that trained as engineers, tool room engineers, CNC, who work with me in my business now. and they decided after a while that maybe that wasn't for them and they could diversify, and now they recruit engineers to work in the engineering industry, but they need to know about engineering. They need to know about how the whole thing comes together to be able to speak confidently and to be able to do that. So if you think about sales, accounts, design, actually pushing buttons and turning stuff and making stuff happen, driving stuff, designing stuff, that is just amazing. If you look at any, somebody said, oh, you know, tech is the future. Yeah, because like engineering is tech as well. And that perception, and I'm a little bit bored of hearing lots of, with respect to loads of my engineering manufacturing colleagues in all these organizations, oh, you know, engineering, it's not a dirty place. Well, we know that. We know that it's not. We know that it's not a dark satanic mill anymore. And if you do, get out of your head right now. Okay, there's going to be one or two businesses in Yorkshire that are a little bit dark and a little bit dull. But guess what? Often those little dark, dull companies offer some of the best opportunities as well. I suppose thinking about where you might be, I'm kind of coming in a little bit from the dark here, but I'm thinking you might have seen on the news around, you know, this whole pandemic thing. I'm not going to dwell on that too much because we hear enough of that, don't we? But I look at the saying, oh, the big issue is around unemployment, and it's affecting 18 to 25-year-olds more than any other group. Okay, it is what it is, isn't it? And all that is, it means that are people going to think, oh, well, you poor 18 to 25-year-olds, we need to give you an opportunity first? Engineering manufacturing, probably not. They're going to be looking for people that will add value to their organization. But also the great news is in engineering manufacturing, we're always short of people. That industry is always short of people. We must have, there must be in Leeds, you don't need to Google it. If you have a look on Indeed.com, have a look at what roles are available in engineering and manufacturing right now within a 15-mile radius of where you live. And I think you'll find there's about 500 plus right now. We've not really suffered with the COVID stuff in engineering and manufacturing too much. We've still got as many people working as we ever had. The competition at the moment is people with experience. So that's where we need to think about the stuff that you're doing right now is what value could you add to organizations? One of the best tips, I suppose, I ever give younger people, or when I interview people, because I interview lots of people and talk about jobs all the time till the day is long, is I look for people that are curious. And in engineering and manufacturing, people that ask good questions and are really bothered about what I do as an organization. So that's a whole separate session that we could talk about another time around how you might bag the right job, how you might get the right work experience, how you might work somewhere that you want to work. You know, the world's changed in the last 100 years. You don't have to work somewhere where you don't want to work. You know, we do have choice. And that's great news. My parents' generation would say, you've got a job, be grateful for it, but I don't want to go to it. But you just turn up for it. And that's not really where we want to be, is it? So I think the cool thing is to be able to ask these organizations, ask them questions before you even, and you'll get great points for that. So you might, you know, diversity and inclusion, equity, equality, that might be important to you. You want to ask an organization, how do they look after the people? For me, that is absolutely number one. I need to know how you look after your people. You know, what is the mix of the people that you have on the shop floor? You know, do you have a good mix of, are you diverse? You know, I won't tick off all the diversity labels that we can give people, but, you know, does it look diverse? What do you do? Are you an ethical organization? Do you do good stuff? Will it suit me? Will I be proud to work there? Will it make me famous? Will it make me famous on my CV to work for you for 6-12 months? And I know I ask some people around how long they might think. I suppose you can't really. Can you put your hands up? I'm curious to know who is on apprenticeship, who's looking for apprenticeships and who's looking for traineeships, or yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, right. Okay, great. So apprenticeships are great, aren't they? It's at least you know you're going to be learning stuff, and that's it. You're going to be, well, sorry to disappoint you, but learning stuff don't end in 3 years' time. It kind of goes on until you're as old as me, learning new stuff, learning new ways, and that's what people are always after. All right, so lifelong learning stuff. The great news is that you're getting intensive learning, and that to organisations, as long as as long as you're taking it in, is really useful. Traineeships is another thing. I know I asked a lot of university students at Leeds not long ago, and they couldn't envisage that they'd be working after the traineeships and after apprenticeships and after they've done their graduate programme. They couldn't envisage that they were going to stay with the same organisation for more than 12 months. And crikey. So you don't have to keep moving on. You don't have to keep moving around, but you do have to, I'd say, it's your career, and it's up to you, but you have to demand and you have to ask for further development. I love it when people come to me and say, right, I want to know about this. I want to go to college. Can I do a day release stuff? I absolutely love that people are bothered about themselves and bothered about their careers. And I have, that's a duty that I have as an employer, to ensure that I keep people learning and interested and happy. I'm trying to make sure that I cover everything that I've been told to cover. So there's a few things about, there's a few pointers there around it. Is, great news is you get to choose where you work, but also it's not a one-way road. It's important about being reliable, being responsive. When you send your CV, do people still do CVs? I'm not sure people do. I suppose we do CVs, covering letters. Tell people why you want to work for them. Why do you want to work for them? That's really flattering. I love it when somebody comes up to me and says, I really want to work for the Works. Great. I look for every corner to see if there's something that we can keep them busy in. Okay, so tell people why you want to work for them. The other important thing is really be responsive in terms of just because you send your CV once or apply for a job once. I know some of the best recruiters and some of the best HR people and managers who, with respect, sometimes they're a little bit partially sighted, metaphorically, and they don't always see your CV. It's okay if you think about tennis. It's all right. I'm rubbish at tennis, by the way. It's okay to have another serve. So if you send your CV once and you hear nothing and you miss, do you know what? It's all right to send it again. And you can actually send it 3 times. To the point of, okay, if you send it every day for the next 2 weeks, you're going to get on my nerves. But I want to see how keen you are to work for my organisation, especially if, and that is the thing that gets people over the net. So it's okay to apply a couple of times to some of these jobs. Am I all right there, Abby? Do you want to cover any more on that bit? Questions?
No, I think it's a really important message you've just given there, and one that we wouldn't always hear for the students, in terms of making sure that actually the place of recruitment is right for them as well. I think if anything, during this pandemic, what it's taught us is that staff well-being is actually of paramount. And so to hear that message from a recruitment point of view, in terms of making sure, that the employer is right for them as well, I think is really, really, really key. And in terms of that resilience as well, I mean, you students have kind of, you've gone through something that no other students have ever gone through before in terms of this remote learning. So you're probably more resilient than a lot of applicants out there. So I think keeping going and resending CVs and things like that, and not taking knockbacks, I think that's a really important message to hear. And it's really good to hear that from you, Craig, from your point of view.
Great. Yeah. Well, what's the worst thing that somebody can do if you keep sending the CV? What's the worst they can do? No.
Yeah.
That's the worst. They're not allowed to clout you. Okay. They're not allowed to rubbish you anywhere else. But also, it's a relationship. That working for any organisation, whether you learning development, whether you're a doctor, a nurse, whether an engineer, anywhere, it's a two-way road. It's a relationship between employer and employee in the UK. It's a little bit different in some other European countries. That relationship is a little bit different. But in the UK, I don't believe any employer sets anybody on in good faith thinking, right, how can I be horrible to them, or how can I make it difficult, or how can I really... They want you to do well. In interviews, they want you to get the job. It's not there to judge. They're there to see, is it right for you? And that's the important thing. One of the best tips a tip I give about interviews, I know this, don't tell anybody else, all right? This is my little secret, but prepare your questions for an interview. Deeply, really prepare your questions for any, and I'm talking about placements, work it, whatever you're going to do. If the moment that you go into any organization, even if you go for a little bit of a look around, I've seen people get offered jobs on the spot even when they're being given a tour of an organization in manufacturing engineering, because they're the ones that are more curious and they ask the questions that are relevant. Okay, so if you've got to be really good at anything, especially for making sure you bag that job, is get good at asking questions. And don't ask about holidays and pay, all right? But ask good questions. I know, hopefully you wouldn't do that, but I'd be surprised people still do. So yeah, I'd say, you know, really think deeply and ask your colleagues, ask your tutors, ask your people, what would be a great question, and think about it in my terms. But also, if you look at the roads that you can go through studying some kind of aspect of engineering and manufacturing, the roads that you can go, the different routes that you can take are phenomenal, because it means that you can apply yourself and you can study something. You know, you're interested about how stuff works. I love that bit. As I say, you know, we're always, if I'm looking at probably 500 things here right now that has got something to do with engineering and manufacturing in somewhere in the world. So it's a really worthwhile subject, I'd say. Do you have any questions so far? We've got about 5 minutes for some questions.
I noticed, Craig, how we've got quite a few students who are interested in the apprenticeships route. Have you seen an upturn in that in terms of opportunities within the region since the government's initiatives? Yeah,
there's, apprenticeships, it's been up until fairly recently, it's been a little bit disjointed in our region. There's been lots of, and even me as an employer and working with the city council, I've been confused about what route I should take. Apprenticeships are great. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether they're stacked more in the employer's favour or the apprentice's favour. I think it's hopefully a balance now. It's about, you know, so think about traineeships as well. You don't have to go down the apprenticeship route. Traineeships are interesting. Apprenticeships are, and you can transfer apprenticeships, so you're not tied in. So if you start your apprenticeship with one firm, if you kind of get a little bit bored or a little bit fed up, you know, you're not nobody's going to shackle you or nail you to one organisation. You can always swap and change, but think about it seriously before you do that. But the apprenticeship route is great. There's if you just sort of Google apprenticeship and leeds.gov, or even Ahead Partnerships. I'm not sure what Ahead do around apprenticeships, but there's lots of different routes. But there's one, I think that's it, the Apprentice Hub. The Apprentice Hub in Leeds is about apprenticeships, and hopefully firms. Some of the most interesting companies tend to be, you know, 80% of all the organisations in engineering and manufacturing employ less than 20 people. So, and what you tend to see, especially on things like this, is big organisations that can afford for somebody like me to come and talk to you for a couple of hours or an hour or whenever. And I have a HR, we might have an HR department, we might have a training manager, we might have somebody that's dedicated to recruiting apprenticeships. 80% of the organisations, they don't have those people. So 80% of those organisations don't get that close to apprenticeships. So sometimes, and this is what I give lots of people career talks, especially sort of over 25s as well. Decide who you want to work for. Don't wait for them to be advertising apprenticeships. Don't wait for them, because we know that 40% of all the jobs that exist are never advertised. They're not online. 40%. And often it's somebody like me said, do you know anybody who might? Could you do that? And they're internal recruits. So 40% of the jobs are never advertised. So the great thing would be to you decide what you want to do, where you want to work. It might be a company at the end of your road. I know when I was at school, we had God, five companies that most people would work for, and some of those were mills, and that's where everybody went. But you can decide, if you see a company, you think, actually, I said to somebody the other day, they want to, I said, where do you want? Well, I'd really like to work for the Co-op head office. Right? Have you applied to them? No, I haven't seen any vacancies. Write to them, send your CV, tell them what you want to do. They've got a job there. So that's it. They're working there now. So that is one of the sure routes. And I'd say 50% of people don't even think that. They wait for a job to be advertised. Have a look at the company, tell them that you'd really like to work for them, and you bet your boots if they've got a job, or they've got a job coming up, or they're going to keep you on file, and they'll let you know as soon as they get something. Because half the relationship is, you know, you wouldn't enter into a relationship if you didn't really like the person, would you? Well, I don't know. Some people do, but you wouldn't really work. You wouldn't really work for somewhere unless you really, or you shouldn't really work somewhere unless you really want to work there. If you really buy into them, if they really buy into their values, who are they as an organisation? What is their personality as a company? All right. So
yeah, I would have never thought that percentage was so high. To be honest, I'm shocked by that. Definitely in that 50% who would have not thought that.
also the big downside is that the percentage of people that apply for jobs, especially on things like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, people, because it's so easy and it's free, and a lot of times to advertise vacancies and advertise roles. The other person at the other end whose job it is to look at all these kind people who have shown an interest to work for my organisation. I won't shock you with the percentage of people that can't be bothered, but there's a huge percentage of people that miss the really great people that apply for jobs. So that's why I'm saying have another serve, but also push a little bit harder, because it's free to have it. In days gone by, it used to cost us about 50 quid every time we advertised a vacancy anywhere. So you bet your boots we looked at every single applicant that was kind enough, good enough to approach our company, and we'd say, actually, thank you for applying. You're not right, but actually you might want to try here, there, or somewhere else. So it is a little bit of a jamboree at the moment, but you directly approach them. Watch out for some of the online advertising, because you'd be surprised how many people ignore applications that come through online. That's why have another go, and hopefully somebody will pick it up.
And you mentioned kind of websites and things like LinkedIn for applying for roles and things like that. As a recruiter, do you look at people's kind of digital footprint and what they've been doing on Facebook and stuff like that, or is that a bit of a myth?
We're not really allowed to. Well, we can have a look. You can't help yourself, can you? You're curious, right? You can't help yourself out. But put it this way: if I see you and you're applying for a really serious job, and you've got eyes like saucers and a pint glass balanced on your head in most of your photographs on Facebook, I'm not allowed to make a decision whether I take your application forward by what I see on Facebook. But I ain't going to admit it. All right, I ain't going to admit it. I just lose, and that's lots of people do that. So think about your personal brand. Think about you and what is your brand? Who are you? What do you want to project? It's hilarious that you can. I remember interviewing somebody. I'm talking about alcohol. I don't even drink, but I remember interviewing somebody, and one of the interview questions was, "What's your greatest achievement? What's your greatest achievement this year?" She says, "Drinking 5 pints on a Friday night." Like, whoa, okay. Now, some people would think, "Oh, she's great fun." Some people might think, "Well, what a stupid answer." So actually, it depends where you're going, and obviously if she's working in a pub, it might be a good answer. If she's working as a surgeon, maybe not a good answer. Okay, so what's your personal brand? Who are you? What do you want to project? I'm going to be looking at you, and what do you want me to see? That's really important.
Thank you. We've had a question come through in the chat here. So how has COVID changed the way we do things in recruitment?
Whoa, okay. Well, for one, you better get used to be chatting to people online like this. That ain't going to go away. The idea that we're going to invite people into offices and shake somebody's hand and give you a cup of tea and that all costs business money. So I think that the way that we've been doing this kind of stuff, I don't think that'll go away. I think some of the first interviews will always be online. The idea that was get people in front of a camera was people feared it worse than death. We did a survey, and actually that was a bit scary. Nowadays, it's part of the job. So that's something that COVID has changed. So I think it's about that initial communication. I think people around that. I'm not going to talk about mental health because I think it's such a big subject, and stress and anxiety is often people get that confused sometimes, and it is linked to mental health. But sometimes somebody said to me, "Oh, in fact, here we are. How we interview people and what interview questions, and so on this kind of stuff. You better be prepared to have some good questions." And look at the background. Look at if you can get any training about some online stuff. That'd be great. I've just forgotten what we're going to say then. But there's that's it. About kind of that anxiety. Just be yourself. That's all you're after. Ask questions. Question answers. Be yourself. Ask questions. Question answers. That's never going to change. The COVID stuff is much more around how we communicate or working with people. That's going to be the big thing about the anxiety of people going back to work. That's going to be a funny one. But nothing's changed.
Yeah, sorry. Just in terms of actual recruitment processes, then obviously you've got your traditional interview, which can be easily done over a platform like this. How have different employers managed kind of like assessments and things like that in your experience?
Well, we're still doing. There's lots of assessments that you can do that have been taken online now. So we do things like health and safety awareness stuff. There's lots of stuff that we can do on online portals, but we have lots of inductions or welcome mats or onboarding processes for lots of the employers that we work with, and that they're all done at the moment. They're done distanced. That's gonna change, hopefully. You know that, and to fact, you know, sort of organisation show arounds. It's really important that you show somebody where they're going to be working or what your processes are. That's still been going on. That's not changed. We work with lots of food manufacturers around the UK, and the amount of assessments, because you can't do an online forklift engineer or forklift truck assessment online. So you've got to do the physical thing there. And people are clever. People are not daft. You know, they look after each other. So I don't think I dare go into it. You'd be fine.
And in terms of those that might be interested in engineering in kind of an office-based situation, are you finding that more offices are now kind of closing down and going to be going from the working from home kind of long term?
I think lots of those processes where you don't need so much, or the job doesn't require much human interaction. So I've seen more departments like accounts, HR, some sales and basic administration. But you know, we're human beings. You know, we like to be around people. Well, depends who the people are, but usually we like to be around people, because that and Abby and I, we had a little discussion, didn't we, about part of the thing about working with people is and I won't swear like I did before, but it's kind of the mess. It's that little bit of an aspect, probably about 10% of your day is kind of messing about. And I don't mean messing about as I mean just that chat, you know, like kind of coffee machine. We say, ooh, you chat by the water machine. No, you don't. You have a bit of banter in an office about what was on telly, what's happening in the world, what's up. That's the important, that, and sometimes you learn more about your colleagues. I used to work in a mill when I was 17, and we used to have to wear ear protectors all day, every day. And a lot of the older women could lip read, but I couldn't. And that was the most boring, lonely place I've ever worked in my life. And I was there a week and 2 days, and it still felt like 6 months. So that, you know, great news is we can interact, but, you know, that's a two-way road as well.
Brilliant. If we've got any more questions, do you want to just pop them in the chat then before we finish off? But it's been really interesting to hear from you today, Craig. I think it's great for us to look at the industry from a recruiter's point of view. It's not often, you know, we get to do that with students. So I really appreciate the time that you've given us today.
You're welcome. I've tried to give you a bit of an overview of what happens, and also, you know, that thing around, you know, there's loads of opportunities for younger people in Leeds. There's loads of opportunity, and not just straightforward. You know, I know Luminate are amazing. I work with Luminate with Common Purpose and all sorts of stuff. So we've got a really great relationship, and recruiters aren't usually as old as me for a start, but they usually. I'm curious. I'm interested in lots of different industries. So if anybody after this session, it's fine for me because I do work with Luminate anyway. And if you would like to, if you've got any more questions or you just want a little bit of a chat, it's fine. I'm stuck here in France. So if somebody just wants a little bit of a chat, we don't have to do the video thing about any advice around getting any jobs or any advice around whether they want an apprenticeship or not. That's absolutely fine if you go through Abby.
Yeah, that's brilliant. If you could, if you want to send any messages to me, then I can always pop them over to Craig as well, and we can arrange any chats or things like that. So yeah, just let me know. But it doesn't look like we've had any more questions come through, Craig. So you must have answered everything that everyone's interested in already. So we'll leave it there then. So thank you very much for your time today, and I'm sure we'll speak again in the future.
Fantastic. Have a cracking week, everybody.
Yes, you too. Take care.
See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.